So I recently delivered and presented my report to the General Assembly, to the Third Committee this past October on the issue of starvation with an emphasis on the Palestinian people's food sovereignty. I've been tracking the war in Gaza since it began in October 2023 because Israel announced its intent to starve the civilians of Gaza on October 9th. I appeared before the General Assembly on October 20th, 2023, and I, among several of my colleagues, other mandate holders, were the first to raise the alarm of the risk of genocide in Gaza within the whole UN system. And me, amongst other colleagues, we've been tracking what's been going on a daily basis for the past 14, 15 months. And so what I'm presenting to you is coming from my report, from my work, from my direct interaction with people in Gaza, with a wide range of stakeholders and governments. And what I think what's important to think about when it comes to the ceasefire, I want to build on Ambassador Mansour's point and our colleague from UNRWA, and say, re-emphasize the importance of the ceasefire. But politically, I don't think this is, it's important to understand, it's not a ceasefire. Israel is treating this as a slowing down of its genocide and starvation campaign. Because let's remember, on October 6th, 2023, Gaza had been under a blockade for 23 years, and that 50% of civilians in Gaza on October 6th, 2023, were already food insecure, and 80% depended on humanitarian aid. So the report that I delivered to the General Assembly, I answered the question, how is it even possible for the state of Israel to starve 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza so quickly and so completely? This has been the fastest starvation campaign in modern history. And to answer that question, I had to go back to the beginning of the creation of the State of Israel. If you look at the founding document of UNRWA, one of the purposes and reasons UNRWA was created was, this is direct language, to prevent the starvation of the Palestinian people. This is 1948. So yes, the ceasefire is important. And yes, recovery and reconstruction is important. But we have to think about how can the people in Gaza, but Palestine more broadly, West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Palestinians in the State of Israel. In Palestine, there has always been the risk of starvation. So if there's any talk of reconstruction, must think about how can the Palestinian people no longer face the risk of starvation and the risk of genocide. The International Court of Justice has recognized the risk of genocide and recognized that starvation is happening. The International Criminal Court has issued warrants on the crime of starvation against Netanyahu and former Minister Gallant. So this is what's important, is to go back and make sure that people no longer face this risk. This goes to the core then of what are the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. I just want to emphasize before, and I appreciate the discussion on the importance of a two-state solution, but can we imagine two states being created and, if finally the state of Palestine is well recognized and established, but nevertheless, the state of Palestine will still be next to the state of Israel, which created the conditions of starvation and genocide. So before we talk one state, two state, whatever state solution, going back to the mandate of this committee, what are the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people? First and foremost, the right of return, to re-emphasize what was said by our colleague from UNRWA. The reports from this committee, I strongly recommend, put front and center the right of return and the right of self-determination. That will provide the conditions necessary for all the political negotiations and political solutions going forward. Too often in UN spaces, do people forget the right of return and the right of self-determination. In the last few minutes, I'll talk about what's at stake. So of course, what's at stake are the Palestinian people's rights. But what we've seen is Israel has not just been attacking Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, and within Israel itself at degrees of violence we've never seen, destroying food systems, creating conditions of hunger that are going to last for generations. But Israel has attacked the UN itself. It is shot at peacekeepers in Lebanon. Israel has killed a record number of UN staff in Gaza, most of them UNRWA staff. We've never seen so many humanitarian workers killed. The human rights system has been under attack by Israel. The mandate holders, we've all been attacked, those of us that have focused on Gaza and on Palestine. And Israel declared the Secretary General himself persona non grata several months ago. And what I heard ambassadors say in New York when I met with them in October in a group meeting on the issue, several ambassadors said when Israel attacks the UN, it's attacking everyone. And now we're seeing what else is at stake, and this was always true for the last 15 months, is US power and European unity. Without the support of the United States and Germany, amongst others, Israel would not be able to implement its starvation campaign and commit genocide. And now what we're seeing is the United States, under the previous administration, exited international law. They stopped using the language of international law in ways we've never seen. And now we're seeing the US administration not only exit international law, but exit the UN, defunding UNRWA, threatening to defund UNESCO, exiting the Human Rights Council. So what's at stake is the international legal order and the UN itself. So the tools and the mechanisms and the policies that we develop to support the Palestinian people's liberation from occupation, the right to return and the right to self-determination, will be the same tools that we will need to rebuild international law and the UN system that we need. The last point I want to make is that I want to commend the different governments that have created what's called the Hague Group. This is, of course, Senegal, as the chair will know. This is called, the Hague Group is Belize, Bolivia, Colombia, Cuba, Honduras, Malaysia, Namibia, Senegal, and South Africa. This group was created in The Hague by the governments to reaffirm their commitment to implement the ICJ resolutions and the ICC decisions. And the first thing on their agenda, of course, was the International Court of Justice decision finding Israel's occupation illegal. And, of course, we're talking about the General Assembly resolution implementing this. So these are countries, and I invite other countries to join this group, that are committed to implementing international law as we know it. So what's at stake is, of course, Palestine, but the global order itself is at stake. And I put forward my services as the Special Rapporteur on the right to food. I've been following this issue closely, not only in New York, I'm active in Geneva, and I'm active in Rome with the Rome-based agencies focused on food and agriculture. And I know I have many colleagues that were eager and willing to work with the committee and with the General Assembly to push all these points forward. Thank you very much, and I look forward to our conversation.